Brother hacked my life, got into everything including my bank account, and now monitoring me like a security camera. I'm in my second year of undergrad at a state university in California, and lately, I've been struggling with a bizarre and infuriating problem involving my brother. He's in his late 20s, a computer engineer, and, apparently, thinks that gives him license to micromanage my life. Let me set the stage. I barely know anything about computers beyond how to Google things, and I've always been the laid-back type. I'm majoring in visual arts, I love to draw, and I tend to go with the flow. My brother, on the other hand, is the epitome of type A, perfectionist, hardworking to a fault, and, frankly, a control freak. He gets results, sure, and from the outside, he looks like the definition of success, but he has an ego the size of California and a compulsion to manage everything, including me. We don't get along all that well, if I'm being honest, but we manage. He seems to resent that I don't want to be as mini-me and that I don't worship the ground he walks on. He's endlessly amused by mocking me, my interests, my hobbies, my life plans. You should change your major to engineering, he'll say, and start taking my advice. Like he's got some master blueprint for my life that he can perfect, so long as I hand over the reins. Lately, when he brings this up during our phone calls, I just stop talking to him for a few days or weeks until he apologizes, but then the cycle starts up all over again. 2 weeks ago, though, things got weird. He made a joke during a call about a piece of digital art I'd been working on, except, here's the thing, I never posted that art anywhere, not online, not even to the cloud. It was only ever on my actual laptop. That set off alarm bells in my head, but at first, I tried to brush it off. Then I remembered another time when he'd made a joke about something I'd said privately to a friend on Discord. Again, there was no way for him to have seen that. Paranoia spiked. I downloaded Malwarebytes, ran every scan I could, but nothing came up. It nagged at me, so I dug deeper, checking my Gmail and a few other accounts that showed login histories. There it was, someone had been logging into my accounts from a computer I didn't recognize. It had been happening for about a week. I confronted my brother about it, and he actually laughed, like it was all some hilarious prank. He told me, without a trace of shame, that he had remote access to my computer, and that he'd be checking up on me from now on, just keeping tabs on everything I was doing. He was so casual, so certain he was in the right, even waxing philosophical about how privacy is dead anyway, as if that justifies anything. The worst part is realizing how deep his breach of my privacy goes. Seriously, I found out my brother has access to just about everything. My bank account, my school accounts, my art and chat accounts, literally all the files on my computer. He's even referenced things that make me think he could have rigged my apartment with a camera or microphone. He's been in my apartment recently, and I have torn through the place searching for anything suspicious, but I haven't found anything, though that doesn't exactly reassure me. There's nothing particularly scandalous on my computer or online, but that isn't the point. The thought of my brother rifling through my private life makes my skin crawl. I can't even relax in my own apartment, and I don't feel safe using my computer or any of my accounts. I'm sitting in my school's library as I write this just to feel like I have some privacy left. I want to put a stop to this, and I want it to be unmistakable. I need my privacy back, but at the same time, I don't want things to escalate so far that I ruin his career or get him in any kind of legal disaster, even if he's a jackass. He likes to brush it off, claiming it's all in the spirit of mentoring me, like the time he called and reminded me about class at a time I never would have told him, or how, when I got furious, he casually joked about dropping my classes for me, and then told me it was only a joke, but still, who does that? He's crossed a line, and I'm pissed. I just want to make him stop, to show him, without a doubt, that this is wrong, not some harmless prank or clever mentoring exercise, but I don't know how to do it with enough force to get through to him without setting his world on fire. I just want my life back to being mine. Update 1. Something shifted in me after a conversation with a close friend and reading a few things online. I suddenly realized just how twisted my relationship with my brother actually was. It felt like the fog had lifted, and I finally saw what was going on with clear eyes. I decided right then and there that I needed to take things seriously and protect myself. As I was cleaning last night, running all these new realizations through my mind, the unthinkable happened. I actually found a camera hidden in my bathroom. It's wild because, sure, I'd had suspicions before, vague feelings that something wasn't right, but it wasn't until that moment with the physical evidence in my hands that it all became terrifyingly real. After that discovery, I didn't hesitate. I went straight to the police station and secured an injunction against my brother. When I got there, I reported everything: the hacking into my computer, the text messages and the voice message he left, filled with references that both alluded to and outright confirmed what he'd been doing. It was exhausting and surreal to go over it all, but I finally felt like I was taking the right steps. I honestly have no idea what's going to come next, but for the first time in a long time I feel some relief. Taking action was what I needed. Update 2. Without exaggeration, this was probably the worst day of my life. After getting served the injunction and temporary restraining order, everything seemed to unravel around me. My brother didn't waste a moment. He ran straight to my parents and told them everything, and then, shockingly, he chose to immediately violate that order. The worst part was receiving message after message from him, each one laced with low-key threats that he was going to ruin my life. I was genuinely scared, so I did what I felt I had to do and reported it. He was taken to jail, and as far as I understand, he's probably facing some kind of misdemeanor charge now, if he hasn't already been charged. I have no idea if he's still in jail at this point, and the not knowing is somehow almost as bad. As expected, my parents took his side instantly. In fact, they've effectively disowned me. My parents are very religious, conservative Catholics. I'm not even religious anymore, though they don't know that, and their reaction was beyond what I'd feared. Upset doesn't even begin to cover it. They called me disgusting, told me I'm not welcome home anymore, and didn't bother to disguise their outrage. One of the worst moments was when my dad sent me a video of him and my mom burning almost all of my belongings that I had left at their house. There wasn't much that was especially important to me, but still, the pain of watching that video was indescribable. It stung even more that they outright refused to believe me about the camera. My dad flat out told me he didn't care even if it was there. His angry rants and screaming calls made it clear there was no reasoning or reaching them. I stopped answering the phone, stopped checking my email, because the thought of hearing from them again makes me absolutely terrified. At this point, I haven't left my room in about a week. Even after a friend helped me wipe my old computer clean, I was too paranoid to keep using it and ended up buying a cheap, new one instead. I know the worst of the storm is probably over, but I feel like I'm stuck at the bottom of a pit I can't climb out of. The isolation is crushing, and I just can't stop crying. Update 3. I'm still here in California, and things have honestly gotten a lot rougher since the last time I checked in. I wish I could say things had improved, but they really haven't. This past semester I had to stop going to school because my depression got so intense that I just couldn't handle the weight of school, work, and everything else going on in my life, especially the things I'm working through related to my sexual orientation. It all became too much. I keep telling myself I'll go back next semester, but right now, it's like I can't focus on anything except work. My life feels so empty right now. Sometimes it feels like all I do is serve customers and come home to four walls. I know I need to get out more, talk to someone who isn't a customer, but even that seems overwhelming most days. Meanwhile, my brother is still in police custody, still waiting on his conviction. It takes ages, way longer than I expected. And of course, my parents have only gotten more intense about harassing me. It's not just them anymore, there are a handful of other people their age, friends maybe, who they've apparently recruited. They find new ways to get to me, weird phone numbers, 67 calls, endless spam, spreading lies and rumors about me. I keep thinking I need to do something, get another restraining order or take some sort of legal action, but the truth is, I'm so exhausted and low these days that I just can't bring myself to deal with it. Ignoring it all has just seemed easier, even if it isn't really. Now, I'm hitting a new wall with the job situation. I need to find a new job, but I'm stuck because I can't put my hands on my social security number. When I cut ties with my parents, I took some important documents with me, but not the ones no college student thinks about daily. I didn't bring my passport, SSN card, or birth certificate with me. Honestly, it's embarrassing, but I just never memorized my SSN because I hardly ever needed it before. The last time I did, my parents just texted me a photo. That was before all of this fell apart. Now, that message is gone. Desperate, I called my parents asking for those documents. I tried to sound intimidating, saying I'd call the police if they didn't send me my info. My dad just implied he either burned everything or would never give it to me. He even went so far as to send me a video. He didn't burn anything on camera, but I have no idea if that was everything or just a sick mind game. Trying to talk to him was pointless. It's like every conversation is another uphill battle I just don't have the energy for right now. I even reached out to his parish leader, a person I know a little, thinking maybe they could convince my parents to stop this constant harassment or at least release my documents. The parish leader claimed he'd talk to them, but, of course, nothing changed. All I have to prove who I am right now is my driver's permit and my useless school ID. None of it is enough. Without more proper documents, I can't even apply for a new SSN card, and I'm terrified that my parents still have everything and might use that information against me somehow. I worry that if I involve the police, my dad will just deny ever having anything and burn or hide whatever is left, and then I'd be stuck, no way to fully prove my identity, no way to get new documents. On top of everything, I keep thinking about changing my name. It's not the biggest priority, but it's one of those things that I feel could help make me feel better, like I could really start new if it isn't too much of a pain to do right now. Honestly, I'm still pretty lazy about it, but if it's not a huge ordeal, maybe it's time. Every step forward feels like dragging concrete, but I'm still here trying to figure out the next move. Update 4. I want to lay this all out because I think it's important to show how the world actually works, and I don't want anyone to be left with the false impression that everything wrapped up nicely in the end. The last 5 months of 2018 were, without exaggeration, the worst months of my life. What happened with my brother, and then being disowned, not only by my family but by their friends and so many other people I thought I knew and respected, completely shattered me. I did manage to get my documents back, at least, without too much trouble. But from that point on, it feels like everything has just been one long string of losses. My brother, the center of all of this, wasn't really punished in any meaningful way. My parents doubled down, protected him at every turn, and in the end, he was handed what basically amounts to probation. No time in jail, nothing that fits what he did. He got fired, sure, but then he landed an even better job, at a small private company, apparently because one of his colleagues had a connection and helped him out. On top of that, someone, either my brother or my parents, I'm fairly sure it was him for various reasons, had people start calling me from unlisted numbers. The calls were always the same, vaguely threatening messages, being called a whore, or just someone breathing on the line until I finally had to change my number altogether. And then, the rumors started. They spread so much that now, I barely feel comfortable even talking to the few genuinely kind people I used to know because I never know what they've heard, or if they'll judge me for any of the stories that simply aren't true. I still can't go back to college this semester, both for personal reasons and because of finances. And the truth is, I've lost all my friends, sometimes because of my own crippling insecurity and depression, sometimes just because the rumors made things too hard. I don't even leave my place except to go to my crappy job, and I'm definitely not caring for myself the way I should. I'm disturbingly thin and pale these days, and I really am trying to get better, but beyond that, my sleep is haunted. I keep having these terrorizing dreams about going to hell, burning alive forever, and it's legitimately driving me insane. I'm not going to do anything drastic, please know that, but mentally, I am absolutely not where I need to be. I'm not writing this to throw a pity party. I can admit I'm a huge part of why this spiraled, in the sense that I haven't handled it all productively or healthily. And I'm not asking for help. My job sucks, but it pays enough to get by. School is just on hold for now, and hopefully I can pick things up again in the summer. But I really want to hammer home just how royally screwed up the whole system is. This is the second time in my life that I've ended up in this position, and my first time experiencing it all as an adult, trying to report what happened, and every single time, I've been lied to, pushed aside, and watched the person who hurt me walk away and move on to a happily ever after. Nobody cares about those of us who are violated, and I completely understand why others never come forward. It's all so disgustingly rigged. Right now, my brother, his girlfriend, and my parents are off on some almost 2-week-long Hawaiian cruise, all smiles and laughter, posing next to water slides. Meanwhile, I'm still here in my apartment, barely able to sleep because of it all. Happy New Year, family. Enjoy your cruise. What a cool picture of the water slide. Update 5. Things have finally settled for me as of about 4 weeks ago, and after everything that's happened, I feel like I owe it to myself to recount how it all unfolded. Life isn't good in the sense that everything is perfect, far from it. I absolutely do not believe in karma, or the idea that good things automatically happen to good people while evil people get what they deserve. But in this scenario, after all the shit I went through, things really did end up working out in a way I never expected. 3 months ago, my brother was suddenly diagnosed with a terminal illness. No warning, no family history of anything like this. When I eventually found out about it, it was already more than a month after he'd gotten his diagnosis. From there, it moved fast. He died about 2 months later, back in April. I didn't see him after he died. I didn't want to. Whatever campaign he and his buddies had going on to harass me just stopped all of a sudden, right after he found out he didn't have much time left. I guess at that point, he lost interest. I don't know many of the details because I was never involved, and I had absolutely no intention of changing that. But the fact is, he's dead. And honestly, I'm glad. For maybe a day or two, I felt a little bit bad about it, like there was supposed to be some complicated grief. But after that, I realized, no, I'm really done with all of that. The universe handed me one single fucking freebie and I'm going to appreciate it. I feel freer, lighter, even happy. I hope he died in as much pain as that kind of illness could bring, and I don't feel bad for wishing that. My life is actually pretty good right now, all things considered. The past 9 months have been some of the absolute worst of my life, but now things have settled into something that's almost nice. I've postponed university for the moment, maybe forever, who knows, and in the meantime, I've landed a good job I actually like in a much cheaper state. I don't have to work endless hours, so I have plenty of free time now and I'm finally starting to enjoy myself instead of constantly stewing in misery. I picked up drawing again. I've been binging these incredibly depressing online superhero novels. I've even started making an effort to meet new people and push myself to make friends. I'm going to look into therapy soon, and for the first time in forever, I actually feel alive again. I'm taking care of my health too, eating properly, no more bad habits. My parents have reached out twice. I ignored them. Planning to keep it that way, probably for good this time. I hope they rot and I don't feel guilty about that anymore. I'm done with feeling sick inside, done feeling like I owe any of them anything. They're the messed up ones, not me. Now, all I want is to hear the news whenever they finally go and join my brother, and I won't feel bad about that either. It wouldn't be fair for me to say that my brother suddenly got cancer, died, and that fixed everything and now I'm happy, because that's not the whole truth. But he died, and I'm honestly glad about it, and yes, it's made it much, much easier for me to be happy now. I wish I could say I fixed my problems all on my own without needing luck or some cosmic intervention, but I'll take what I can get. For the first time in a long time, I can say my life is mine. Update 6. I thought the story would end with him dying. It didn't. Out of nowhere, I got a call from a woman who introduced herself as his girlfriend, the one from the cruise pictures, apparently. Her voice was careful, like she was picking her way across broken glass. She said she found a storage unit key in a jacket pocket weeks after the funeral and finally worked up the nerve to go see what had opened. There were cases inside, hard black boxes like something a film crew would use, filled with drives, tiny cameras, little routers, a tangle of wires that looked like a nest. She didn't touch anything besides one envelope she said had my first name sharpied on it. She didn't read it. She drove straight to a police station and turned everything over. A detective called me the next morning with the kind of calm voice people practice for a living. He told me they'd cataloged enough to make a spreadsheet and that there were folders with actual names on them, not just mine. He said, "We think there are other women," in that soft, apologetic way. I had to sit on the floor to stop my legs shaking. I don't know what I'd been telling myself all this time. Somehow, up until that minute, I'd carried this stupid hope that he'd only ever fixated on me. It turns out he didn't even have the decency to keep his craziness in the family. They asked if I could come in and make a statement to stitch this onto the first report I filed years ago. I went. The room they put me in was one of those gray boxes with a metal table and tired chairs, and they had a binder with my name printed on a tab. I saw a photo of my old bathroom taped into a plastic sleeve with blue painter's tape still around the baseboard, the camera I'd found circled in red like a quiz correction. On the next page there was a printed diagram, my apartment, hand-drawn in pencil, and in the corner he'd sketched little arcs to show blind spots. There were screenshots of bank logins and my Discord handle next to timestamps. In one clear plastic evidence bag they had my contact sheet from college, scan quality so high you could see the crease where it folded in my backpack. The detective said they found the same kind of diagrams for at least 4 other spaces. He didn't need to say whose. They found the envelope with my name last. It wasn't an apology. It was a set of instructions. Passwords, a recovery kit to his mess, like he was passing me a baton he'd been jogging with for years. There were sticky notes in his blocky handwriting, "You'll thank me for organizing it," and a small USB drive labeled keys. The detective asked if I wanted to see what was on it before they imaged it. I told him no. I told him to catalog it with the rest and that I didn't want anything back. I didn't have the stomach for any more of his voice in my head. Because he's dead, there won't be a trial. It's just a mountain of evidence and a report that will sit in a cabinet somewhere so other people have something solid to hold up if they ever need it. But there's a practical side I didn't expect. Probate opened. My parents petitioned to be administrators of his estate. 2 of the other women hired an attorney, and then their attorney reached out to me. He used the words creditor's claim and wrongful invasion of privacy and conversion like normal building blocks and told me we were on a clock. I signed with him. He filed. Suddenly, I had a case number again, all these years after I wanted it to be over. My parents reacted the exact way you're imagining. A letter arrived from a lawyer who somehow managed to sound both sanctimonious and sticky, telling me I was defaming a dead man by mischaracterizing pranks, and that they'd vigorously oppose any attempt to enrich myself. I laughed when I read that and then I cried for a day, because there's this special kind of nausea that comes when someone spins your nightmare into a joke on letterhead. The attorney I hired didn't blink. He fired off something else with words like spoliation and notice, and then a judge signed a tiny little order that did something very big. It froze distributions out of the estate until claims are resolved. The girlfriend, met me for coffee one afternoon on a patio that smelled like oranges and car fumes. She looked nothing like the pictures from the cruise. She looked haunted. She said she had believed his stories for years, that I'd been dramatic and unwell, and then she saw a folder in the storage unit with her own name. The way her face broke when she said that. I don't know. We sat there and passed the napkin dispenser back and forth like a relay baton because neither of us had thought to bring tissues. She handed me a little envelope with no return address. Inside was a Polaroid of the storage unit door and a photocopy of the rental contract with his signature. She said, "I kept these in case they say I'm lying." I told her I believed her, and I meant it. There are other details that don't fit neatly anywhere, but they're there. The detective told me my father called his station and tried to file a stalking complaint against me. He said my father claimed I was harassing them using a third party and turning the community against a grieving family. He's old and loud and he likes an audience. They took the call, they documented it, and they moved on. My phone stayed quiet. I'm still across state lines, and silence might be the only mercy I've been given that I don't feel guilty taking. And about my name, I went ahead and changed it. It's legally mine now, the way my life is mine. It surprised me how simple it was. A courthouse I'd never been to before, a judge who looked at the papers and at me and back at the papers, and then said granted while yawning like it was nothing. I walked outside clutching a piece of paper that made me feel like I'd just stepped out of an old skin. Last week, my attorney texted me a screenshot of a sentence I read 12 times to make sure I wasn't imagining it. It said, "Parties have reached a tentative settlement in principle. It's not jackpot money and it won't undo any of it, but it will pay off the debt that swallowed me whole when I ran. It will buy me more therapy than 3 co-pays and a hopeful shrug. If my parents sign, they'll have to sign something that has my name on it acknowledging what happened." I keep picturing my father's hand holding a pen and shaking. After I left the police station that first day, I sat in my car and finally opened the only thing from the envelope I was willing to read, a single index card that had fallen loose. It was one sentence in his handwriting, exactly the kind of smug thing he would have said at Thanksgiving if no one had stopped him. It's not spying if, it's family. I tore it in half and then in quarters and let the pieces drift into an empty coffee cup at my feet. It felt like nothing. It felt like everything. I go home to a place with a name on the mailbox that doesn't make my stomach clench. No cameras. No blue tape on the baseboards. My computer feels like just a computer. I don't check the smoke detector every night anymore. I still keep the binder the detective showed me in my head, because I think I always will, but when I draw now, it's just lines and color and mistakes that are mine. And if there's a miracle anywhere in any of this, it's that. Update 7. The email showed up at 2:14 a.m. with his name in the from line like a hand through the wall. Subject line, if I'm gone. I watched it sit there and kept waiting for it to disappear, like my inbox would spit it back out on its own. I didn't open the attachment. I couldn't make myself read a word past the preview that said Google Inactive Account Manager and something about trusted contacts. I forwarded the whole thing to the detective and then sat on the bathroom floor and shook until the tile warmed under my legs. He called me back in the morning with that careful voice again. He said they'd put it behind their firewall and imaged it, and the short version was, it was real. It was a dead man's switch, and it was everything. Not just log files with my name, but a spreadsheet labeled Dad that made my stomach flip, the storage unit fees, receipts for little devices and cash, a couple reimbursements where the memo line read tools, and screenshots of texts I could hear in my father's mouth. Let me know where she's going. Don't let her get taken advantage of. And then, later, delete this. I didn't say anything while the detective talked because I couldn't figure out how to put the word complicit in a sentence about my parents without throwing up. I wanted so badly to be wrong about them in at least one direction. He told me he was adding it to the file. I told him, thank you, and I meant it in that weird, dry way you mean it when someone confirms the worst thing you suspected. My attorney took one look at a printout of the Dad tab and told me to breathe. He said we were amending our claim. He sent something over to the probate judge and then my phone just filled up with events, an ex-parte hearing, a new paper with a new caption, my parents' lawyer hissing through his teeth on a Zoom link that kept freezing, and then, this part made me laugh, the court swapped my parents out as administrators and put in a neutral professional with glasses and a voice like a meditation app. The line that froze distribution stayed. We are not litigating the dead, the judge said, and then, we are making injured people whole. I took a picture of the transcript on my screen and stared at the sentence until it felt like a warm coin in my hand. My father left me 2 voicemails that I didn't play all the way through. I caught false witness and grieving and then I hit delete. The second one was just breathing and a click. I moved his number into a folder on my phone with a name I called Museum, a place to put things that only exist so I can point and say they existed. The settlement that was in principle turned into a stack of paper with headers and definitions. There was a draft that tried to glue a non-disparagement clause onto my mouth. My attorney pulled it off like a band-aid and sent it back clean. We went to mediation in a room that had a bowl of nuts no one touched and a ficus that looked like it needed a cigarette. Across from me, the neutral administrator sat with a pen and kept making check marks next to boxes, and my parents' lawyer wore a tie, the color of toothpaste, and talked to the wall more than he talked to me. At the end, they circulated what the mediator called a statement of fact. One paragraph, simple, in black and white, with my new name in it, that he installed devices without consent and accessed accounts without authorization. It was more blunt than I expected it to be. It was so plain it almost knocked me off my chair. I held the packet and read that paragraph out loud under my breath, the way you say a new word you've only ever seen written. When the wire hit my account, my bank app showed me numbers I've never seen next to my name. It wasn't life-altering, but it was dead-ending. I paid off the card I'd been dragging like a bad ankle. I set up therapy without calculating how many hours of work it meant. I bought myself a pair of sneakers that didn't hurt my feet. It felt like letting air into a room I hadn't realized was sealed. There was one part of the agreement that didn't feel like money, and I circled it in my mind over and over. The evidence outside of law enforcement's copies had to be destroyed. Every loose drive, every backup, everything the estate had any call over. The administrator asked if I wanted to be present. I said yes before my brain caught up. The destruction place was in a beige park with a name like an allergy medicine. The floor was painted concrete and the whole building smelled like heat and lemon cleaning spray. They made me sign that I wouldn't touch anything, and then they put safety glasses on my face that were too big. I watched them lay silver hard drives on a metal tray like frozen fish fillets. The guy running the drill had a baseball hat with a company logo on it and forearms like fence posts. He said, "You can press the pedal if you want." The drill went down in the bit, and there was this small neat curl of metal that peeled up like a chip. The top cracked. He ran the drill twice more, in a triangle, and then held the drive up so I could see daylight through it. In another corner, a shredder ate a nest of thin black lenses and little routers with blue lights that never lit up again. Somewhere in me, something unclenched that I didn't know was still tight. I didn't keep a screw or a label. I kept the sound. On the way to my car, I texted the girlfriend a photo of the drilled, through platter with a caption that was just my thumbs up. She sent back a heart and a picture of the ocean near where she lives. We're not friends in the storybook sense, but we're not strangers either. We know the same ghost. In the middle of all that, I met the other women the detective had told me about. We chose a dumpling place with a dining room the size of my living room and soda in glass bottles. We traded the basic details so we could find each other in the file without saying too much, and then we talked about normal things for an hour because it felt like we'd earned an hour of normal. Shoes. Someone's cat that sleeps like a rotisserie chicken. We laughed and I could feel the laugh in my ribs, real and bright, not the kind you force out of yourself so no one asks if you're okay. The dead man's email turned into one more legal footnote. The detective told me they printed the dad tab for the binder. Sometimes I think about that sheet of paper with the column widths just so and his blocky nicknames typed in at the top and my father's name spelled out down one side like an ugly certainty. Sometimes I don't think about it at all. I signed up for a figure drawing class at a community center down the street because I wanted a room with other people breathing in it. The first night I drew hands like they were bundles of carrots, but I didn't care. I taped the worst one up in my kitchen with blue painter's tape because I decide where blue tape goes now. I brew coffee in the morning and the mug sweats and I watch light crawl across my table, and there is no humming in the wall, no lens where a lens shouldn't be. For the first time, It's Over feels like more than just words I say when I want to believe them. It feels boring. It feels quiet. It feels like mine.